A reading from the book of the prophet Isaiah, chapter 9. The people that walked in darkness have seen a great light. On the inhabitants of a country in shadow, dark as death, light has blazed forth. You have enlarged the nation, you have increased its joy. They rejoice before you, as people rejoice at harvest time, as they exult when they are dividing plunder. For the yoke that weighed on them, the bar across their shoulders, the rod of their oppressor, these you have broken as on the day of Midian. For all the footgear clanking over the ground, and all the clothing rolled in blood will be burnt, will be food for the flames. For a son has been born for us, a son has been given to us, and dominion has been laid on his shoulders, and this is the name he has been given: Wonder Counselor, Mighty God, Eternal Father, Prince of Peace. His rule will be great, and there will be no end of peace for the throne of David and his kingdom, secure and established in fair judgment and righteousness from this time onwards and forever. The jealous love of the Lord Sabaoth will do this. Punishment on the kingdom of Israel. The Lord has sent out a word to Jacob, and it has fallen on Israel. And the whole people will know it. Ephraim and the inhabitants of Samaria, who say in the pride of their arrogant hearts, the bricks have fallen down, but we shall rebuild with dressed stone. The sycamores have been felled, but we shall replace them with cedars. But the Lord has raised their foe against them. He has whipped up their enemies, Aram to the east, Philistines to the west, to devour Israel with gaping jaws. After all this, his anger is not spent. His arm is still outstretched. But the people would not come back to him who struck them. They would not seek out the Lord Sabaoth. Hence, the Lord has topped and tailed Israel, cutting off palm and reed in a single day. The top is the elder and the man of rank. The tail is the prophet teaching lies. This people's leaders have led them astray, and those who are led by them are swallowed up. Hence the Lord will no longer take delight in their young people, nor pity their orphans and widows, since all of them are godless and evil. And everything they say is madness. After all this, his anger is not spent, his arm is still outstretched. Wickedness burns like a fire, devouring bramble and thorn bush, setting the forest thickets ablaze. Up they go in billowing smoke. The country has been set on fire by the fury of the Lord Sabaoth, and the people are like food for the flames. No one spares a thought for a brother or sister. They have sliced to the right and are still hungry. They have eaten to the left and are not satisfied. Each devours the flesh of their own arm. Manasseh devours Ephraim, and Ephraim Manasseh. Together they turn against Judah. After all this, his anger is not spent, his arm still outstretched. The word of the Lord. A reading from the book of the prophet Isaiah, chapter 10. Woe to those who enact unjust decrees, who draft oppressive statutes, to deny justice to the weak, and to cheat of fair judgment, the humble of my people, to make widows their prey, and to rob the orphan. What will you do on the day of punishment, when disaster comes from far away? To whom will you run for help? Where will you leave your riches? To avoid squatting among the captives or falling among the slain? After all this, his anger is not spent, his arm still outstretched. Against the king of Assyria. Woe to Assyria, rod of my anger. The club in their hands is my fury. Against a godless nation I am sending him, against a people of my wrath I commission him to pillage and plunder at will, and trample them down like the mud in the streets. But this was not his intention, and his heart did not envisage it so, for he dreamed of putting an end to them, destroying nations without number. For he said, Are not my officers all kings? Is not Calno like Carchemish, Hamath like Arpad, Samaria like Damascus? As my hand has found the kingdoms of the false gods with more images than Jerusalem and Samaria, as I have treated Samaria and her false gods, shall I not treat Jerusalem and her statues too? When the Lord has completed all his work on Mount Zion and in Jerusalem, he will punish the fruit of the king of Assyria's boastful heart and the insolence of his haughty looks. For he thinks, By the strength of my own arm I have done this, and by my own wisdom, how intelligent I have been. I have abolished the frontiers between peoples. I have plundered their treasures like a bull. I have brought low their inhabitants. My hand has plundered the riches of the peoples, like a bird's nest, like someone scooping up deserted eggs. I have scooped up the whole world, while no one fluttered a wing or opened a beak to squawk. Does the axe claim more credit than the one who wields it? Or the saw more strength than the one who handles it? As though a staff controlled those who raise it, or a club raised what is not made of wood? That is why the Lord Sabaoth will inflict wasting sickness on his stout warriors, and beneath his glory kindle a fever burning like a fire. The light of Israel will become a fire, and its Holy One a flame, burning and devouring his thorn bushes and brambles in a single day. He will ravage the glory of his forest and orchard, body and soul. It will be like a consumptive wasting away. The remnant of the trees of his forest will be so few that a child could write their number. The name Shear Jashub. When that day comes, the remnant of Israel and the survivors of the house of Jacob will stop relying on the man who strikes them and will truly rely on the Lord, the Holy One of Israel. A remnant will return, the remnant of Jacob, to the mighty God. Israel, though your people are like the sand of the sea, only a remnant of them will return. A destruction has been decreed, overflowing with righteousness. For throughout the country, the Lord God Sabaoth will enforce the destruction now decreed. Assyria will not succeed. Therefore, the Lord God Sabaoth says this: My people who live in Zion, do not be afraid of Assyria. He may strike you with the rod, he may raise the club against you as he did in Egypt. But in a very short while, the time of wrath will come to an end, and my anger will destroy them. The Lord Sabaoth will brandish a whip at him as he struck Midian at the rock of Oreb, will brandish his rod over the sea when he raises it as he did in Egypt. When that day comes, his burden will fall from your shoulder and his yoke from your neck, and the yoke will be destroyed. The enemy approaches. They have reached Ayath, passed by Migron, stored their baggage train at Michmash. They have passed through the defile. They have bivouacked at Geba. Ramah quaked. Gibeah of Saul has fled. Cry your loudest, Bath Galim. Pay attention, Laisha. Answer her, Anathoth. Madmenah has run away. The inhabitants of Gebim have taken cover. This very day, as he halts at Nob, he will shake his fist at the mountain of the daughter Zion, the hill of Jerusalem. See, the Lord God Sabaoth will violently lop off the foliage. The tallest will be cut down, the proudest laid low. The forest thickets will fall beneath the axe, and Lebanon in its majesty will fall. The word of the Lord.